Okay, at 15:31, I'll call to order the meeting of the International Falls Economic Development Authority for Tuesday, January 16th. Note the roll call. I believe Councillor Jacksaw is on her way. Yes, she is. Yeah.
Oh, I'm late. Had to get it easy.
That's okay. We'll forgive you. We'll move to the approval of the minutes of the meeting of October 16th.
I'll make a motion, Mr. President, I guess it is.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve the minutes of October 16th. All in favor signify by the sign.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Audience, we'll move to number 5, accounts payable finance reports for December 31st, 2017. The report of EDA Fund 208, Multimodal District Fund 404.
I'll make a motion to approve the financial reports as treasurer.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any discussion on the financial reports? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor by the sign.
Aye.
Opposed? Financial reports. Accounts payable is approved. Under reports, to consider the resolution to terminate Mariner Farms, which you have in your packet.
Mr. President, I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Consider the resolution to terminate Mariner Farms. Any discussion?
Yeah, I would hope that Bruce wasn't able to pull this off, but I was looking into the future of aquaponic farming. Thunder Bay is going through with a tiered system. They started in 2015, actually. The other thing is that we have a distillery in Rainier, and we have barley on the border, and organic malt's a big deal in microbreweries. So there is still value. Ideas are cheap. It's always in the execution and especially in the financing, right? But the idea of an aquaponic farm up here still makes sense. And it's just that, in fact, maybe looking at organic malt or finding out more from Thunder Bay just how they're accomplishing it. But they are going full steam ahead in Thunder Bay. But not with Bruce.
And I would agree with that. The resolution is just terminate
Right,
with Mariner
but
Farms
you said
at this time. But if
discussion, yeah.
someone so chooses in the future that wants to look at our multimodal for something on that order, we would consider it, and we can end up coming up with another developer's agreement.
I am disappointed that it didn't work out because I thought it was a great way to diversify our economy and provide high-quality food to our restaurants. And
I remain hopeful that something could still happen that way.
Mr. President, I just, my comments aren't necessarily on the Mariner Farms, but it's on economic development and how we got to this point. I know that we don't have a ton of people knocking on our door to build new businesses and opportunities in our community. So when Mariner Farms came, it was a really excited proposal for our community. And I do think that our city council kind of rushed through this because it was economic development. And I sometimes think that we really owe it to the city and to all parties involved to really look over the process and ask harder questions. Just because we ask hard questions to someone who wants to come into our community doesn't mean we're against their project. It means that we care enough about our community to ask, what is this going to do? How is this going to benefit us? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And I think that this did get pushed a little bit faster than it should have, which doesn't make it right and doesn't make it wrong. I just do think that we need more due diligence and ask harder questions to people that we're going to give land to in the city, because it is of value. It's not just a dollar. It is of value to what we're going to do moving forward. And just because someone wants to do economic development doesn't mean that we need to throw the farm at them every time.
Yeah, we certainly have in the past too. We've had the Bidstead project, we've had the fishery, we've had the telemarketing firm, we've had the foreign trade zone, we've had the garbage recycling burning thing that isn't going to go anywhere. So recap, that's going nowhere. That's not going anywhere.
Yeah, the hotel out on the riverfront, the whole riverfront property. I mean,
we keep trying, and we have to keep trying. And by God, you're going to get egg on your face if you try, because it's easier to go into crime than it's less risky to be a criminal than it is to be in business. You know.
Well, it
is.
These are all good points. But the one thing I think that we need to is to have our attorney, when we draw up a developer's agreement, is we need some timeline as much as possible, in as much as that he's been sitting on this for how many years with nothing happening. Maybe we have to just say, if something doesn't happen in 6 months, we have the right to get out of the agreement or whatever, because we shouldn't have to wait this long and have to have a resolution to.
Well, I kept trying to get him up here, and partly that was, I kept thinking I could get him here and making the phone calls and just.
Mr. Chairman, I know that Councillor Jacksaw and Councillor Rognerud were very enthusiastic about this, and I think that Councillor Droba has given us a good point here, is that we need to do stronger due diligence on individuals. I know I made calls to IRRR and other places to check because the individual had made application for funds down there, and they had literally turned them aside. I think that you're right, Councillor Droba. In some cases, we would sell our soul or literally sell our soul for some kind of economic development. But I think we need to be certainly more diligent as we listen to these proposals.
When did you make those phone calls?
Oh, they were probably 18 months ago.
18 months, okay. This project has been on the burner since when? 3 years? Okay.
27th of December.
Yeah. Well, at the time that he came up here, he had a project at Silver Bay. He did have a project at Silver Bay. He was the contractor on that project.
It's not my understanding. He was hired by the city of Silver Bay. I talked to Mayor Scott Johnson. He was hired by the city of Silver Bay to be their economic developer, and the aquaponics operation that was there was being run by the University of Minnesota Duluth.
But he was managing that facility.
No, he was not at all. If you read the Duluth News Tribune article that's here, and it says that he was not. He would lead you to believe that he was, and I believe he was.
I went and visited him there, not once, but 3 times, and with other people. And I guess what I'm trying to get at is I don't like to be beaten up about not doing due diligence, because we had made 3 trips down there. He had come up here twice. The city of Silver Bay had invested with UMD, and I think that at 3 years ago this looked a little differently than it even did 18 months ago. So that's all I'm saying.
I think if you look on the on page 3 of the, and it's about in the middle of the. Bruce didn't have any experience doing this. He kind of watched us from afar and tried to take credit whenever he could. He never spent a day in there working.
Where is this?
Center of the page.
Further, he said, I think he gave the impression that he was in charge and we were all working for him, which was kind of silly because it was a partnership between UMD and the city, and Bruce really didn't have anything to do with it. I don't know why they would write that if it wasn't the case.
Well, everything in the newspaper is true, but I take it as at face value that it is true. But yeah. In any case, if you want to beat me up,
Oh, I'm not,
Well,
I said, I know you were excited about it. It's just, I think we have
Counselor Drova's
to,
point
it's for all of us.
is that we need to ask harder questions and then make sure that we actually get somebody to do some background checks and start checking a little bit deeper into it, you know, as
And to clarify my point, it wasn't against any council, because I sat back here and I was councilor-elect when this all transpired. Brian and I,
was sitting right
we were
there
sitting
too.
there.
I thought it was great. The guys noticed if what's in this paper is true.
I think what my point is all of us as elected officials from the city to the county, all the way up, I think we hear economic development and we realize that that's how we build a community. And you get pie-eyed and you really want it. And sometimes we don't do our due diligence. And I'm not calling anybody out on that. I'm saying if we were a different city, that city council may do it. We need to ask tough questions, make them squirm a little bit, not too much because we don't want them to go away if they're legitimate, but we do have to ask these very tough questions. And, you know, what is your timeline to get this built? If it fails, what is your fallout plan? What is the city going to do in the event that you do fail? I mean, these are the questions that we need to start asking, because the reality is most startup businesses do fail. And so where are we going to be in the event that they do? What liability are we going to hold? And that's my point.
And the fisheries would be a good example. I mean, to see that building sitting there rotting away like it is shameful.
I think that actually cost the city about $35,000 too. We were out for that much.
But you know, I mean, those are some of the examples out there that
We have tried, and we're going to keep trying, right? And we have to accept a certain amount of risk. It has to be reasonable, but we do have to accept risk.
Any more discussion?
Mr. President,
Sir.
on the draft resolution, I want to make it clear that I drafted this based on the information that I had from the original development agreement, from the conversation that we had with, or from the information that was included in the news articles, and then also my conversation with the city attorney. And he had suggested that the last whereas on the first page, where it says the EDA legal counsel has opined that, and I quoted him. He didn't want that quoted, but he did agree that, you know, his opinion was that the development agreement, or that the Mariner Farms is in default on our development agreement because of a failure to move forward on the wetland mitigation process. He just didn't want it quoted that way. So I would just propose that it be changed to the way that he wanted, and it's essentially the same thing.
Okay.
The other comment that I would make goes to the timing and having timelines in the agreement, and that's a good suggestion. And this one, the only timeline that it had in there is that the building construction had to start 12 months after the wetland mitigation process application was approved. So there was one, but that's part of where this project stumbled, is they never got the wetland application submitted, in part because I don't know that the consultant got paid for all of his work, but he did start the work, and so it was kind of a work in process that never got to that point. And unfortunately, I think that there's probably more substantiation in the development agreement to terminate based on the fact that his corporation as a limited liability company has suffered an administrative termination based on the Secretary of State because he hasn't revised his filings, and that would be another grounds for not moving forward with or development agreement. So I think that's an important fact also.
Thank you. More discussion? If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor to approve the resolution signify by the sign.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And on to Director's Report, Annual Report, Board Information.
Mr. President, I have the agenda right in front of me. Don't we have a matter of business as well on the housing study? I don't see it on the agenda. Now I've lost it.
Well, I do have a new agenda. I don't know why it's, and not only that, but we had officers too. I did a new agenda. For some reason it didn't get copied, so I apologize. But the housing study is on there, and as is appointing officers. So I'm sorry, I just caught that. No, I should have caught it earlier, because I have one on our system.
Okay. Yeah, we do have that piece that's time
I
sensitive.
see that it's in here. So.
President, I would move that we would transfer from our Economic Development Fund to the City of International Falls up to $6,000 for a contribution to the Couchiching County Housing Study.
Second that motion.
Motion and a second to transfer $6,000 to move forward on the Couchiching County Housing Study. Any discussion? No discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by the sign.
Aye.
Opposed?
Me.
Commissioners Pearson and Droba were no.
We got to do officers too?
Yes.
Oh, okay. You have a slate?
Well, there's a president, the vice president, secretary. No. And you don't have to make any changes.
Can we make
obviously.
motions?
Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah.
Well, can I make a motion?
Yeah.
On this, or, Chair, you slam your gavel down. I don't know where we are, but I just was going to make a motion to, if we're on officers, to nominate Keisha.
As president.
Well, okay, as president, I was,
Second to that?
I had something else in mind. Okay.
I'll second it.
And just,
I'm gonna accept.
For the housing thing?
No, we're president of the EDA.
EDA
Oh,
for
my.
next year.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Perfect.
Confused
Any
on
more
which
discussion
topic
on
we
it?
were on.
I'll call for the question. All those in favor of having Keisha be the next president of the EDA signify by the sign.
I,
Opposed? Motion carried.
There's been a lot of enthusiasm in those
We
eyes.
have a vice.
Yes, vice president.
all right, then I'll make another motion. Make a motion that Harley Droba be treasurer. That's what I am now. I've been treasurer forever, so I want to
you're
confer
the-
that honor over to somebody else.
Oh, you're like the CPA of the group. Of course we would have you as the treasurer.
I know, but it isn't,
So your motion is for Droba to be,
yeah, that is my motion.
and was there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second for Commissioner Droba to be vice president of the EDA.
No, treasurer.
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 Oh, treasurer. I thought you said vice.
No,
Treasurer. Okay, that's it. That right. You got that down there, Ken? Because I didn't.
Do now? Yeah, I do.
Okay. So a motion for Commissioner Droba to be treasurer secretary, right?
oh, is that a
or just-
doable role?
No, I would recommend that the secretary be a separate position and that it be me.
Okay, then treasurer.
Yeah,
Motion and second, treasurer Droba. All those in favor signify by the sign.
I
Opposed?
will do it though, right?
I'll do it though.
All right, and then I'll make another motion.
What?
Well,
You're out of control today.
I'll make a motion that Brian Briggs, the current president, step into the role of vice president as an aide to our new president. That's a perfect role for a resigning president.
That's what I did for you.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by the sign.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, then lastly, what's the secretary thing?
Well, the statute allows and the bylaws for an assistant treasurer and/or a secretary, and right now Betty Bergstrom is the assistant treasurer, and so she would serve direction of the treasurer, but to assist in all the treasurer's duties in the absence of the treasurer or what's delegated to her from the treasurer. And we can have a secretary, and I would prefer being appointed. I think it works better to have maybe the secretary in the absence, or to help, I guess, for signing checks, to be honest.
Well, that's a lot of work. You got to do the minutes.
We delegate some of that stuff, so. but I do proof them, so.
Right, Emma?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have
But for signing checks, as an officer, I can sign checks, and it's good to have the president and the vice president.
Are you on the commission then if you're secretary?
No, non-voting. And the assistant treasurers are not, the only voting members are you five.
5 commissioners.
So I make a motion that we appoint Ann Anderson as the secretary, and that Betty Bergstrom, I'm going to make this 2 parts, be the acting treasurer. Is that the word?
Title is assistant treasurer.
Assistant treasurer.
By the statute.
Motion, is there a second? Second, to have Anderson be the secretary and Betty Bergstrom the assistant treasurer. Any discussion on that? I'll call. All those in favor signify by the sign.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Other business.
Annual report? No?
Adjourned.